My own brother demanded that I hand over the loft I spent years earning because he believed he was destined to build a $1 billion company. What hurt even more was discovering that my parents actually agreed with him. They thought I should sacrifice everything I had worked for so he could chase another impossible dream. They had no idea their plan was about to explode in a way none of them expected. My brother actually looked me in the eye and told me I was supposed to support him after he demanded my loft for his newest business idea. Even worse, my parents completely backed him. I only had one answer: learn how to take no for an answer. A few years earlier, after saving every spare dollar and finally getting promoted, I bought a loft in downtown Chicago. It was not some luxury penthouse, just a comfortable 1,800 square foot place with exposed brick, big windows, and an incredible view of the skyline. I spent the next 18 months fixing it up myself until it became a home I was proud of. My younger brother, Gavin, has always been called ambitious, but I think unrealistic describes him much better. He graduated with a business degree 2 years ago, and ever since then he has launched and abandoned 7 different startups. Every single one was supposed to change the world and make him rich. In reality, he only managed to max out 3 credit cards, move back into our parents' basement, and somehow convince them he was a misunderstood genius. Our parents, Walter and Evelyn, have always treated Gavin like he was special. I was the quiet kid who studied hard and stayed out of trouble. He was the dreamer who always needed extra support. When I earned a partial scholarship to Northwestern, they barely reacted. But when Gavin finally got accepted after his 3rd attempt, they celebrated because, according to them, real geniuses do not always test well. Last week, the situation became even crazier. Gavin called me while I was at work, which almost never happens unless he wants money. He said he had an important business proposal and wanted to come over that evening. I figured he was about to ask for another loan he would never repay, so I already had my answer prepared. He arrived exactly at 7 o'clock wearing a cheap suit and carrying a leather portfolio. He walked into my loft with so much confidence that it felt like he already owned the place. "Logan," he said, "we need to talk about headquarters." "Headquarters?" I asked, while he slowly looked around my home. "My next company is going to be huge," he said. "It will completely change digital marketing and artificial intelligence." Then he walked over to the windows and admired the view. "This loft is perfect. The location, the style, the atmosphere. This is exactly where great companies begin." I laughed because I honestly thought he was joking. "Gavin, this is my home." He smiled at me like I was missing the obvious. "That is exactly why you will always work for someone else. This place should not be wasted as a home. In my hands, it could become the center of a company that changes the world." "So you just want to borrow it for meetings?" I asked. He looked offended. "Borrow? No. I am talking about transferring ownership. You can move somewhere else, maybe somewhere in the suburbs. This loft is meant for me. I do not just want it, I need it. Some people are meant to follow, and some are meant to lead from places like this." I stared at him for several seconds before I finally spoke. "You seriously expect me to give you my loft?" "We are family," he replied. "Think of it as an investment. Transfer the loft to me, and I will give you a minority share in my company. When we go public, you will be richer than you ever imagined." "Gavin, get out." He just shook his head. "Mom and Dad warned me you would react like this. They said you have always been jealous of my potential." "They actually know about this?" He smirked. "They were the ones who told me to ask. They understand that some people are born to change the world, and others are meant to support them. There's nothing wrong with being support staff. Logan." I walked him straight to the front door. Before leaving, he looked back and said, "This is not over. Mom and Dad want everyone together for dinner on Sunday. We will settle this as a family." That conversation happened 5 days ago. Now the family dinner is tomorrow, and both of my parents keep texting me about keeping an open mind and supporting family dreams. My mother even sent me an article about successful people recognizing opportunity. Yesterday, my father called and said, "Logan, every family cannot have 2 stars. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is support the person with the greatest potential. Gavin has something special. Do not let jealousy blind you." Jealous? Was I really supposed to envy my unemployed brother who still lived in our parents' basement and honestly believed he deserved my home simply because he thought destiny owed him success? At that point, I honestly started wondering if I was the only sane person left in my family. How was I supposed to get through tomorrow's family dinner without losing my temper? And how had my parents become so completely convinced that Gavin was some kind of genius? It has been 2 weeks since my original post, and I want to thank everyone who commented. Your advice honestly kept me sane because that dinner turned out to be one of the most surreal nights of my life. I am posting an update because somehow the situation has only gotten worse. The dinner was at my parents' house. When I arrived, Gavin had already set up a laptop, projector, and a full presentation. He was wearing the same ill-fitting suit and had made a 40-slide PowerPoint titled Synergistic Relocation Proposal, Maximizing Family Assets for Exponential Growth. My mom hugged me at the door and whispered, "Please just hear him out. He worked so hard on this." The presentation was exactly as ridiculous as you would expect. Gavin had pictures of my loft with notes explaining how every room would be used. My bedroom would become the innovation suite. My office, the strategy war room, and even my bathroom was labeled the Executive Refreshment Center. The highlight was a graph showing his company growing from nothing to $50 million in just 3 years. There were no numbers, no research, and no explanation. Just a line going straight up. "As you can see," Gavin said, "the potential is obvious, but I need the right environment. Logan's loft is not a luxury. It is a necessity." My father nodded through the entire presentation. "Very convincing, son." I finally asked, "Even if I agreed to this, what does your company actually do?" Gavin smiled. "That is the beauty of it. We are combining artificial intelligence, blockchain, and machine learning to transform digital marketing." "That is just a bunch of buzzwords," I said. "What does the company actually do?" "You are thinking too small," he answered. "We are not limited to one thing. We are changing everything." "So, nothing?" My mom immediately stepped in. "Logan, stop being so negative. Gavin already has investors interested." "What investors?" I asked. Gavin showed me an email chain. They were obvious scams. One message even began with, "Dear sir or madam," and promised guaranteed funding. "Gavin, these are fake." He ignored me. "These are international investors who recognize real potential." Then my father stood up. "Logan, we did not raise you to be selfish. Family supports family. When Gavin succeeds, we all win. But success requires sacrifice." I looked at him. "Whose sacrifice?" "Because nobody's asking Gavin to give up anything." "I am sacrificing plenty," Gavin argued. "I could be making 6 figures at a corporate job, but I chose to build something meaningful." "You could not get a corporate job," I reminded him. "Every company you applied to rejected you." My mother gasped. "Logan, that is cruel. They just could not see his potential." The argument continued for another 2 hours. Every point I made was dismissed as jealousy, selfishness, or negative thinking. Then my parents made their announcement. They were taking $50,000 from their retirement savings to invest in Gavin. They had already given him my father's study as an office and hired an online business coach who charged $500 an hour. "We believe in Gavin," my father said. "The question is, do you believe in your family?" I left without saying another word. Since then, I have been getting daily messages. Gavin keeps sending me articles about disruption and thinking big, while my mother keeps filling my phone with guilt about family loyalty. My dad keeps sending long lectures about how my problem is having a scarcity mindset. But things got even worse. Yesterday, I came home from work and found Gavin in my building lobby talking to the concierge. He was introducing himself as my business partner and asking about conference rooms for future client meetings. When he saw me, he smiled. "Perfect timing, Logan. I was just checking out the building. The lounge on the 3rd floor would be perfect for investor presentations." "Gavin, how did you even get in here?" "Mom gave me the spare key you left her for emergencies, and this is an emergency, a business opportunity." I took the key back immediately and told building security he was no longer allowed inside. As he walked away, he said, "You're only delaying the inevitable. Destiny always wins." The next morning, I woke up to 12 missed calls from my parents. My mother had also texted me saying I embarrassed Gavin in front of strangers and that we needed to discuss my priorities. At that point, I honestly felt like I was living in another reality. They treated me like the villain for refusing to hand over my home to my unemployed brother. How could I possibly convince them that Gavin was not some misunderstood genius, but a narcissist living in a fantasy? A month later, I have another update because things have escalated far beyond anything I expected. It is no longer just family drama. Now it involves fraud and legal threats. After my last update, I changed my locks, informed building security, and cut contact with my family except when absolutely necessary. For about 2 weeks, it stayed quiet aside from passive-aggressive messages in the family group chat. Then Gavin decided to take things even further. 3 weeks ago, my building manager, Brooke, called me. She sounded confused. "Logan, your brother is here with a man claiming to be his lawyer. They're asking for access to your unit for a business inspection. They say you're partners." "I have no partnership with Gavin," I told her. "He has no rights to my property." "That's what I thought," she replied, "but they brought paperwork." I left work immediately. When I arrived, Gavin was standing there with a man in a cheap suit who introduced himself as Travis Montgomery, Esquire. The documents were supposedly a partnership agreement, but they included a forged version of my signature. "This is fraud," I said. "I never signed this. I'm calling the police." The fake lawyer immediately started backing toward the door, saying there must have been a misunderstanding, before quickly leaving. Gavin did not back down. "You signed it at Mom and Dad's house," he insisted. "You were drunk." "I had 1 beer. You had a lot more than that. You just don't remember. Mom and Dad both saw you sign it." I immediately called my parents on speaker so Brooke could hear. My mother actually said, "Logan, you drank quite a bit that night. You probably don't remember everything." "I had 1 beer," my father added. "You were definitely impaired. You signed the agreement and we both witnessed it." I could not believe what I was hearing. My own parents were willing to lie just to support Gavin's fantasy. Brooke looked at me and quietly said, "You need to contact the real authorities." So I filed a police report for fraud and attempted identity theft. The officer investigated Travis Montgomery and discovered he was not a lawyer at all. He was a former paralegal who had lost his job because of ethics violations. The next day, my family exploded. My parents were furious that I had called the police. My father yelled, "You're trying to give your own brother a criminal record over a misunderstanding." "He tried to steal my home," I answered. My mother cried in the background. "We didn't raise you to be this cruel. Gavin is fragile. He needs support, not punishment." "Fragile?" I said. "He hired a fake lawyer." My mother immediately corrected me. "Travis is a legal consultant." My mother insisted, just because Travis is not a licensed attorney does not mean he is not qualified. I ended the call, but Gavin was far from finished. Since he could no longer enter my building, he started showing up at my office. He would sit in the lobby telling anyone who listened that he was waiting for his business partner so they could discuss their company. After about a week, my boss, Scott, called me into his office. "Logan, I do not want to get involved in your personal life, but there is a man downstairs claiming to be your business partner. He has been talking to our receptionist for an hour about artificial intelligence and blockchain marketing." I explained everything. Thankfully, Scott believed me and had security escort Gavin out. Instead of leaving quietly, Gavin recorded the whole thing and posted it on LinkedIn. He tagged my company and accused them of attacking entrepreneurs and creating a hostile environment for startups. Then he launched a GoFundMe called "Help a Young Entrepreneur Claim His Rightful Headquarters." In it, he claimed I had promised him a partnership but backed out because I was jealous of his success. He even asked people to donate money for legal fees. My parents donated $5,000. They also shared the fundraiser on Facebook, writing long posts about supporting dreams instead of letting jealousy destroy a family. Soon relatives started contacting me. Most were confused, but a few actually believed Gavin. My Aunt Gloria called me a dream crusher, and my cousin Austin said I should be ashamed for holding him back. At that point, I hired a real lawyer. It cost me $3,000 just to get started. She immediately sent Gavin a cease and desist letter and began preparing paperwork for a possible restraining order. That was when my parents made their biggest move. 3 months later, this will be my final update because everything has finally come to an end. After my last post, things were quiet for about 2 weeks. Gavin stopped coming to my office, the GoFundMe was removed after I reported it for fraud, and my parents stopped calling. I honestly thought they had finally accepted reality. I was completely wrong. 3 weeks ago, I was served with real legal papers. Not from Gavin's fake lawyer, but from an actual law firm. My own parents were suing me. They claimed I had promised to support Gavin's business in exchange for future profits, then broke that promise and caused him financial and emotional harm. But that was not even the worst accusation. They also claimed I had manipulated them into giving me $30,000 for the down payment on my loft 5 years earlier. The truth was much simpler. That money had been a gift. They signed all the proper paperwork, and there was never any expectation that I would repay it. Now they were claiming they had been emotionally pressured into giving it to me and that the money should have belonged to the whole family. The lawsuit demanded 3 things. First, repayment of the $30,000 with interest. Second, compensation for Gavin's lost business opportunities. And third, that my loft be transferred into a family trust managed by Gavin. My lawyer, Nicole, read everything and shook her head. This is one of the most vindictive family lawsuits I have ever seen. They're trying to ruin you financially, so you will give up the loft. She also noticed something unusual. The law firm handling the case often accepted lawsuits only when they believed there was a large financial payoff. Someone had convinced them Gavin's company was worth millions. Nicole investigated further. She discovered Gavin had been working with a so-called business consultant named Bradley Cross. Bradley's entire business was convincing vulnerable people they were future business legends who only needed money, coaching, and the right connections. He charged huge fees for fake investors, expensive coaching, and legal referrals. He had convinced Gavin that I was the only obstacle standing between him and a billion-dollar company. He had also convinced my parents that their son's success was being destroyed by my jealousy. Then everything suddenly fell apart. Bradley got greedy. He convinced my parents to pay him $75,000 as an investment fee that would supposedly connect Gavin with major investors. The check cleared. Bradley disappeared. Then everything collapsed. My parents had already lost $75,000 to Bradley, on top of the $50,000 they had poured into Gavin. Their retirement savings were nearly gone. They tried calling Bradley, but his phone was disconnected. His office turned out to be nothing more than a virtual address, and his website vanished overnight. When they reported everything to the police, the detective uncovered the truth. Bradley Cross was not even his real name. He was actually Owen Mercer, a con artist who had run the same scam in 3 different states. There was already a federal investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation soon took over the case. The agent handling it, Brooke Martinez, wanted to know how Owen had found Gavin. The answer was simple. Gavin had been flooding LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter with posts about being a misunderstood genius who just needed someone to believe in his vision. He was exactly the kind of person these scammers target, someone with a huge ego and access to family money. The investigation uncovered 12 victims and nearly $2 million stolen. Owen was arrested in Florida 2 weeks later. After that, everything changed. Without Bradley feeding their fantasy and after losing so much money, my parents finally had to face reality. Gavin was not a business genius. He was unemployed, had fallen for a scam, and had dragged them down with him. They dropped the lawsuit. Not because they admitted they were wrong, but because they could no longer afford it. Their lawyer also walked away after realizing Gavin's billion-dollar company was nothing but fantasy. Gavin completely fell apart. He began posting increasingly unhinged videos online, blaming everyone except himself. He claimed society had destroyed his dreams and even insisted Bradley had been sent by competitors to sabotage him. My Aunt Gloria, who once called me a dream crusher, apologized after seeing those videos. She finally realized Gavin needed professional help, not endless support. My parents never apologized. Instead, their lawyer sent me a letter saying they were disappointed in me and were removing me from their will. Honestly, it did not matter. After giving away $125,000, there was probably nothing left to inherit. Gavin still lives with our parents. He is still unemployed, and he still insists he is a misunderstood genius. His newest business idea is a YouTube channel where he gives business advice despite never running a successful company. It has 12 subscribers, and most of them look fake. I finally cut all contact. I changed my phone number, blocked everyone on social media, and told my building not to let them onto the property. It hurt, But the peace was worth it. The loft is still mine. I even redecorated it to leave all those memories behind. I also started therapy to deal with everything. My therapist, Dr. Elizabeth Chen, helped me understand something important. No matter what I had done, I was never going to win. If I'd given Gavin the loft, he would have lost it and blamed me. If I had given him money, he would have wanted even more. The only real choice was to walk away. This experience taught me a lot. Sometimes the people enabling bad behavior are just as harmful as the person causing it. Scammers love people with oversized egos, and sometimes protecting yourself means walking away from your own family. I still keep every email, text, and video. My lawyer, Nicole, told me never to delete anything, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation agent gave me the same advice. Last week, Gavin somehow found my new phone number. His message said, "When my company goes public, you'll regret not believing in me. I'm giving you one last chance to apologize and invest." I never replied. I blocked the number and forwarded everything to Nicole. Some people never change. Today my loft is finally peaceful. I have also started dating a wonderful teacher named Claire. She once asked if I missed my family. I told her the truth. I missed the family I believed I had, not the one I actually did. And to everyone who followed this story and supported me, thank you. Your comments honestly kept me grounded and reminded me that I was not the crazy one. Now I'm closing this chapter and moving on with my life. I have realized that the best revenge is not getting even. It is building a peaceful life without people who constantly drag you down. The loft is still mine. My life is still mine. And for the first time in months, I am genuinely happy. 6 months later, I did not think I would ever post another update, but something happened that finally gave this story a real ending. My parents lost their house. After giving money to Gavin, the scammer, and spending even more on legal fees, they could no longer afford the mortgage. They now live in a small one-bedroom apartment in Aurora. Gavin finally got a job at a mall selling cell phones on commission. He is not the manager, and he certainly does not own the business. Yet his LinkedIn still lists him as the Chief Executive Officer of Revolutionary Ventures Incorporated. Reality finally caught up with him. Through different relatives, my parents have tried reaching out. They keep asking me to help them financially until Gavin's business finally succeeds. They always say we should forget the past and move on. They still do not understand. And they probably never will. I never answered them. I never will. That chapter of my life is permanently closed. My loft has gone up $50,000 in value since I bought it. I was promoted to senior software engineer. Claire and I are planning a trip to Europe this summer. In the end, real success turned out to be the best revenge. Not because my family gets to see it, but because I finally built a happy life without them.